Every case file leaves behind a trail of evidence, but every unsolved mystery, well, that leaves behind lingering, haunting questions. Today, we're opening up a particularly dark chapter in American history. We are looking at a 1982 tragedy that didn't just shatter families, but permanently altered the way we go about our daily lives. Welcome to this explainer on the Tylenol murders, the poisoning that changed America forever.
Think about the last time you bought a bottle of headache medicine. You've probably had to peel back a plastic ring, unscrew a tight cap, and then pierce your way through this heavy foil seal just to get to the pills inside. We take all those layers of security completely for granted today, but why exactly do our medicine bottles have those safety seals? Well, the answer is rooted in a terrifying real-life history where a seemingly harmless household item was turned into a deadly weapon.
Part 1. 7 Innocent Lives.
To understand how consumer safety was completely transformed, we have to go back to the inciting incident. Let's look at the timeline. We're in the Chicago area, late September 1982, and the terror escalated incredibly fast. It started on September 29th. Completely healthy, everyday people just began collapsing and dying suddenly. By September 30th, medical examiners and police started noticing a really chilling pattern emerging from these seemingly random tragedies. And by October 1st, just 3 days after the first incident, the death toll had rapidly reached 7. Now, these individuals hadn't succumbed to some contagious illness. They had all just taken a common, over-the-counter painkiller, Extra Strength Tylenol, and within hours, they were gone.
The sheer randomness of these sudden deaths just shocked the nation. We're talking about victims ranging in age from just 12 years old all the way up to 35. These were young, healthy people, children, parents, siblings, whose lives were cut incredibly short. And at first glance, there was zero connection between them. No shared locations, no shared enemies. But medical investigators were about to find the single deadly thread tying them all together.
Part 2. The cyanide-laced capsules.
The medical discovery that followed shifted this entire case from a baffling medical anomaly into an active, horrifying crime scene. The focus turned entirely to the medicine cabinets of the victims, and specifically to those seemingly harmless red and white capsules. Toxicology reports revealed the sheer clinical lethality of the weapon. You see, this wasn't a manufacturing error or just a bad batch of medicine. The victims had ingested capsules meticulously packed with potassium cyanide. It's a highly toxic, incredibly fast-acting poison. Someone had actually deliberately emptied the pain-relieving powder out of these extra-strength Tylenol capsules and refilled them with a lethal dose of cyanide before putting them back together.
Investigators quickly started to piece together the killer's methodology. And it is chilling. Step 1, the perpetrator walks into various pharmacies and supermarkets around the Chicago area and simply takes bottles of Tylenol off the shelves. Step 2, they take those bottles to a secondary location, carefully open them up, and replace the safe capsules with the poisoned ones. And finally, Step 3, they secretly return the tampered bottles right back to the store shelves, just leaving them there for completely unsuspecting customers to buy. It was a completely randomized, anonymous act of malice.
Part 3. A nationwide investigation.
That realization, it sent an absolute shockwave across the country. What started as localized terror in the Chicago suburbs immediately triggered one of the most intense and massive criminal investigations in American history. The threat was totally invisible. It was sitting right there on grocery store shelves, and literally no one knew where the killer might strike next. So the immediate priority was saving lives. Authorities took to the airwaves, frantically warning the public via television and radio broadcasts, do not consume any Tylenol capsules. At the same time, this massive task force mobilized, bringing together the FBI, local police departments, and the FDA. And in a historic, unprecedented move, millions of Tylenol bottles were pulled and recalled from store shelves nationwide. The manufacturer lost millions of dollars, but the primary focus was just getting this potential poison out of the public's hands.
Part 4. The prime suspect.
With the immediate public health crisis managed through that massive recall, the task force shifted its focus to the hunt. Over the ensuing years, investigators compiled massive case files, following up on thousands of leads, interviewing hundreds of people in a desperate search for this phantom killer. And out of all those interviews, one name rose to the top of the pile: James Lewis. Lewis became the prime suspect because, right during the height of the panic, he sent an extortion letter to the manufacturer of Tylenol, demanding $1 million to stop the killings. Lewis was tracked down, arrested, and he was actually convicted of extortion for sending that letter. However, demanding money is very different from committing murder. Despite intense scrutiny, authorities could never find any physical evidence, any witnesses, or any concrete proof whatsoever tying James Lewis to the actual poisonings in Chicago.
Which brings us to a deeply frustrating reality for the victims' families and for law enforcement. Despite the extortion conviction of James Lewis, and despite examining countless other persons of interest over the decades, no suspect has ever been charged or convicted for the murders of those 7 innocent people. The true killer, whoever they were, managed to just slip away into the shadows.
Part 5. Changing consumer safety forever.
While the criminal case went cold, the impact of this crime created an immediate and permanent revolution in how we interact with everyday products. The legacy of those 7 lives lost in Chicago is literally visible in almost everything we buy today. Ultimately, this tragedy completely transformed consumer safety in the United States and eventually around the world. The FDA mandated new regulations that led directly to the creation of tamper-evident packaging, so that foil barrier, the shrink-wrap plastic around the cap, the protective bottle designs, all of those were developed as a direct result of the 1982 Tylenol murders. They were designed to make it immediately obvious to you, the consumer, if a product had been opened or altered before you bought it. And these exact changes continue to protect millions of us today.
Part 6. An unsolved mystery.
Yet despite those massive leaps forward in public safety, the core of this story remains an open wound. It's a stark reminder that not all case files get closed, and not all perpetrators face justice. It has been more than 40 years since those fatal days in the fall of 1982. Think about that. More than 4 decades of forensic advancements, investigative reviews, and searching for answers. And still, despite all of that time and all of those resources, the person who meticulously loaded those capsules with potassium cyanide and placed them on store shelves has never been definitively identified.
It leaves us with a pretty haunting question to ponder the next time we look at our safely sealed medicines. With the passage of so much time, will new evidence, or perhaps a deathbed confession, ever finally identify the killer? Or is the phantom of the Tylenol murders destined to remain entirely hidden in the darkness, leaving this as one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries?
Some mysteries are eventually brought into the light. Others, like this one, leave only shadows.